everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Huck. Today we are doing my winter TBR. So these are the books that I want to read in December, January, and February. But before diving into those, take a quick look at my autumn TBR and see what I did or did not read from that. So on that TBR, I had 12 books and I read 6 of them. I DNF'd 1 and I had 5 that were left unread. So we'll just go through them really quickly and I'll tell you what my ratings for them were. So first up, we have For the Wolf by Hannah Whitten, which I gave 4 stars. Then we have Forest of Souls by Lori M. Lee, which I gave 2.5 stars. Next is Wildwood Dancing by Juliet Marillier, which I gave 4 stars. Then we have The Bone Shard Daughter by Andrea Stewart, which was the poll pick that you all voted for, and I gave this 4 stars. Then I have Dragon Keeper by Robin Hobb, which I finally read, and I actually read Dragon Haven as well, which was technically not on the TBR, but I'm just telling y'all that I read both of them, and I'm very excited about that fact. And I gave Dragon Keeper, I think 3.5 stars, and Dragon Haven 4 stars. So those are the ones that I completed. Then my one DNF was Miranda and Caliban by Jacqueline Carey. And that means that the 5 books that I did not complete were The Hidden City by Michelle West, Riot Baby by Tochi Onyebuchi, Fireborn by Rosaria Munda, The Jasmine Throne by Tasha Suri, and The Wolf and the Woodsman by Ava Reed. And some of these are actually just going to roll over onto my winter TBR because I still really want to read them soon. But yeah, so those were the books from my autumn TBR. Let's get into winter. So I'm gonna put these into my usual categories, starting out with buddy reads. This season, at the moment, I only have one buddy read planned, which is Hall of Smoke by H.M. Long. This, I believe, is a kind of Norse-inspired fantasy where we are following a woman who is a warrior priestess, I believe, but then everyone in her monastery is killed in some like horrific event, and then that kind of sets her off on this greater quest. I think there are gods involved. That's about all I know about it, which I know is very vague, but it sounds very interesting. I've heard good things about it. The second book is coming out early next year. It might even be coming out in January, so I really wanted to read this in December to know if I should be excited about the sequel coming out. But yeah, so this, I recently put a post on my community page asking if anybody was interested in buddy reading this, and a couple of you guys responded and were interested in it, so we are going to be buddy reading this together. We're going to be reading it or discussing it on Discord. I ended up just making like a Discord server because that seemed like the easiest way to just allow like multiple people to discuss the book. So yeah, we're going to be starting this around December 5th. So if anyone else is interested in joining us, you're welcome to. I know December 5th is very close to when this video is probably going up, so it's very short notice, but the Discord link will be in the description if you would like to join us. You are welcome. Yeah, so that is my one buddy read that I currently have planned. Then I have a couple of rereads. So one of them is The Dark Mirror by Juliet Marillier. This has been on TBRs before, but it's back on this one because I actually really want to read this in December. Ideally, I would love to read this whole trilogy, just like binge read the trilogy in December. I'm not sure if that's going to happen, but I want to at least read this first book. So this is the beginning of the Brady Chronicles. I'm not quite sure how you pronounce it. But in it, we were following Brady, who has this like great destiny ahead of him, and he is being kind of raised and tutored by a druid, when one day, when he's very young, he finds a baby girl that they believe may be one of the fair folk. And a lot of people are saying that they should get rid of her in some way. But Brady wants to keep her and raise her, and so the two of them end up growing up together, and it turns out that she may be more involved in his great destiny than anyone would have expected. It's been a really long time since I read this one, so I don't remember a whole lot about it, but I am excited to get back to this one and try it again. I remember liking it, but that's about it. And then the other reread that I have is The Binding by Bridget Collins. This was one of my favorite books of 2019. And I feel like this has the potential to be a favorite book of all time, but I usually like to reread a book at least once before deciding if it is a favorite book of all time, because rereadability is important to me. And there are some books that are like amazing to read the first time you read them, but then like the second time, they're just like not that good. So I want to reread this book. I read it the first time in January, so now it just seems like a book that I read in January. So I'm hoping to get to this one in January specifically. This is kind of like vaguely historical fantasy. It takes place in a world where books are not what we think of them in our world, because in this world they have people who are bookbinders are able to remove memories from people's minds and bind them into books. And so when you read a book, you are experiencing that person's memory. And bookbinding is considered very taboo in this world, but the binders themselves view themselves almost like doctors who like amputate memories to alleviate pain. And our main character is a farmer who finds out that he has the ability to bind memories into books, and then along the way discovers that there is a book with his name on it, which indicates that he may have had a memory bound at some point, which of course he does not remember, and then that sets off a whole like series of events. Yeah, I remember loving this so much. I know that Bridget Collins' writing is so beautiful and atmospheric. I love books about memory. This was a book that really just like swept me away, and I was like obsessed with it the first time I read it, so I'm really hoping to love it again. Okay, so now we are on to series continuations. At the moment, I only have one series that I'm planning to continue, which is the Rain Wild Chronicles by Robin Hobb, but I do want to read the last two books. Actually, I'm hoping to read these in December. So that is City of Dragons and Blood of Dragons. This series I have been reading as audiobooks, so just for the Rain Wild Chronicles, once I get to the final trilogy where we are back with Fitz and the Fool, I'm probably going to switch back to reading them physically, but I've really been enjoying reading the Rain Wild Chronicles as audiobooks. That also has been helping me get through the books more quickly, not to mention the fact that these books are like much shorter than a lot of her other ones. But I really enjoyed the first two in this series, so I am hoping to really enjoy these as well, and I'm planning to just kind of binge read them back to back like I did with the first two. And then our final category is just kind of other miscellaneous, just other books that I want to read. So one of them is a book that is rolling over from the autumn TBR, which is The Jasmine Throne by Tasha Suri. I am still very excited to read this. I have loved other books. I really liked the other duology that I read from Tasha Suri, and I'm hoping to really love this one. I was going to originally read it in November, but then I decided to put it off because this is the kind of book that I want to make sure I'm able to give it my full attention when I read it. And so I think I'm going to specifically read this at the end of December, beginning of January. Like, this might be the first book that I read in January, because I'm going to be taking off from work that like for 2 weeks, that like last week of December, first week of January. And I just want to be able to like have the time to be fully mentally present when I'm reading this book. I just feel like I'm going to like it, and I want to give it its best shot to be fully enjoyed. The next book that I have is Crossings by Alex Landrigan. This is another like book about books, which I have been meaning to read, and also I kind of have it on this list because I feel like if I reread the binding and then I want another book about books, I could just read this one. Even though I've had kind of bad luck with books about books, this one just piqued my interest. In it, we were following a bookbinder who is given a manuscript and instructed not to read it, but to bind it in this like very elaborate way. But then when you read the book, they end up reading the book, and there are actually like 3 intertwining stories, I believe, and there are actually instructions. It's like 2 different ways that you can read this book, whether you read each individual story or if you read them in their kind of like interlocking way that they take, in the way that they take place. Which I have read another book that has kind of a similar concept, in like that you can read it in multiple ways, which was Arcadia by Ian Pierce, I believe. And I really enjoyed that one, so I feel like maybe I would enjoy this one. I don't know. I also just really love the cover for this, which was honestly one of the things that inspired me to buy this. But I would like to get to this one, and I feel like this might be a good follow-up to reading the binding if I'm feeling like, oh, I'm just on a roll and I really want something with like a similar vibe. Okay, the next book that I have is very different, but it is Places No One Knows by Brenna Jovanoff. This is a YA contemporary with like a little bit of magic in it. I don't know too much about it, but I know that we're following 2 kids in high school. One of them, I believe, is able to walk through people's dreams. She meets this boy in his dream, and I think she originally like doesn't really believe that he's real, but then they meet and I think they end up having a romance or something. I don't know. I've been meaning to read a book from Brenna Jovanoff for a long time. I got this earlier this year and just haven't gotten around to it, so I really would like to. I'm thinking maybe I'll get to this one around February, but I'm not really sure. Why do I feel like I have dog hair on my face? Oh my god, if I keep touching my face, it's just because I keep feeling like there's dog hair on me. Okay, alright. Next book. Next up, we have The Empire's Ghost by Isabel Steiger. I don't remember what this is about, and it's one of those books that every time I read the description, I'm like, that sounds cool, and then immediately forget what it said. So I don't know what to tell you, but it sounds like it's going to be very political, and the cover looks very wintry, so it seems like a good one to start in winter. Next, we have The Heron Kings by Eric Lewis, and this follows Sister Alessia, who has sworn an oath to take no part in war, but she is a healer and she wants to kind of help both sides, but then a warlord like doesn't want her to do that, so he kind of exiles her, so she ends up joining, I think, this kind of group of rebels who live out in the woods so that she can heal whoever she wants, which that sounds amazing to me, that they're gonna be out in the woods and she's just like, I'm gonna heal whoever I want to heal. I'm just like, yes, that sounds great. And then the last book that I have is The Widow Queen by Elżbieta Czerzinska. Sorry, I'm sure, like, I always try to find out how to pronounce authors' names. I tried my best with that one. But this is historical fiction about a Polish queen who I think not that much is known about her, but this is one of those like historical fiction books that tries to kind of flesh out the character of a woman from history and, you know, kind of be like, what would her life have been like? Which is always a premise that intrigues me. You know, it can be a little hit or miss sometimes, but I just think that that premise is interesting. So I do really want to get to this one. It also seems like a good one for the winter time, a good chunky historical fiction set in Poland. All right, so those are all of the books that are currently on my TBR. And the last portion of this video is to let you all vote on adding one more book to my winter TBR. So I have 3 books here. One of them is another one that's kind of rolling over from autumn because I do want to get to this one. So I thought I would put it here to see if you guys will vote for it, and that will force me to read it, or if you're gonna vote for something else. So the one that's rolling over is The Wolf and the Woodsman by Ava Reid. This is a recent release that is inspired by Jewish folklore and I think Hungarian history, and I was very excited about this one because I am always really interested in like Jewish fantasy, but then after it came out I heard some kind of like stuff about it that like people didn't like it that much, so it made me a little bit hesitant to pick it up, but I do still really want to get it, probably get to it. Probably also another one that would be good in the winter. Then we also have Starless by Jacqueline Carey, which Jacqueline Carey is an author that I have a real hit or miss relationship, mostly actually been misses. I really like her writing style, but I often have a hard time with her characters and plots. But I'm very intrigued to read more from her. But in this, we are following our main character, Kai, who has grown up and spent his youth learning the killing arts in order to protect his soul twin, who is a princess. But then I think she gets sick and he gets pulled into court intrigue, and then this sets them off on a larger adventure. I think that there are gods involved, like gods who walk among us in this world. It sounds very interesting. I'm not sure what to expect from this given my past experience with Jacqueline Carey, but I do still really want to read this. And then the last option to vote on is The Queen of the Tierling by Erica Johansson. And actually, I'm realizing I don't know what this is about. So it says, an untested young princess must claim her throne, learn to become a queen, and combat a malevolent sorceress in this epic battle between light and darkness. This is one that was popular a few years ago, and it was like really popular for a while, and then it got a lot of criticism, I feel like, and I never got around to reading it, and I really want to. It also has an absolutely beautiful cover. But I am just very intrigued by this one. So I know these were all very vague descriptions of these books, so I will put links to their Goodreads pages in the description if you want to know more details about them. But once again, the three that you can vote for are The Wolf and the Woodsman by Ava Reid, Starless by Jacqueline Carey, or The Queen of the Tierling by Erica Johansson. And the way you can vote for this is there will be a link in the description to my community tab where there will be a poll, or you can just go to my channel and navigate like to the community tab and vote there. And that will be open for, I guess, like 2 days after this video is posted, and then I will announce on my community tab which one of these won and is being added to my TBR for the winter. All right, so those are all of the books that I have my eye on for winter. A lot of these, we'll see what happens. The only books that are really guaranteed for me to read are, of course, the buddy read and the poll pick that you all vote for. Everything else is really up for grabs. We'll just see what happens, but I am very excited to read all of these, so I'm hoping to get to them. But let me know what is a good like winter read that either you have read or you're excited to read for this winter. But thank you all for watching, and until next time, bye!